As a lot of you will know, Zaya, our 8-month-old snow leopard cub, recently had a fungal infection in her left eye, and as a result she had to have some surgery for that. We asked you guys if you had any further questions about the surgery or about Zaya's recovery, and we're going to go through some of those questions now. So we're not entirely sure how, but the reason that Zaya needed surgery on her eye is because she managed to develop a fungal infection. When Rob, the specialist, came to do Zaya's surgery, what he did was detach a very thin layer of the top of her eye, which was healthy and not infected. He moved that to the side and then took out a lot of the infection, including quite a lot of her cornea, and then stitched this graft as a flap back over the top of her eye to allow it to heal. So it's obviously incredibly difficult to tell to what degree Zaya may or may not be in pain. She can't tell us, but what we can assume is that there would be a small amount of pain there. So she was given pain relief as a precaution anyway, and for a much longer period than she probably would need it. What we can say, and we have to go by her behaviour, is that she has seemed perfectly herself. So we think if there was any pain, it's under control. Snow leopards have been known to develop something called ocular coloboma, which is an issue with their eyes, but that is completely unrelated to what we've seen here with Zaya. We haven't made very many changes to the way that we're managing Zaya while she heals. What we always have to think about is with every change that we make, potentially there is a knock-on effect to her sort of emotionally. So although we were mixing Yarko, her father, in with the family group at the time that this occurred, we have now just removed him from the family group while she heals. We are also separating her and her brother and her mother while we feed them, so that there's no bickering over food and things like that. But we haven't made any further changes. We haven't removed her from her brother and her mum, because that would have such an impact on her welfare at such a young age that would be more detrimental than it would be. You know, the risk of having them in there is much less than the impact it would have on her welfare if we were to isolate her. The thing to remember, I guess, is that we don't know exactly what caused the infection this time round, so I can't rule out that it will never recur. But I also don't have a reason to think that it certainly will. We will just have to see what happens, take everything one step at a time. It may be that if it recurs soon, we may even need to look at removing Zaya's eye completely. If it was to recur many years down the line, maybe that wouldn't be the case. All we have to do is just make sure that whatever we're doing the right thing by Zaya at all times, and we're doing whatever would be in her best interest. It's very difficult to say whether Zaya can see through the eye at the moment or not. We have tried to do tests, but to be perfectly honest, she moves around so much. It's hard to know if she's looking at you because she saw what you were doing, or if she's looking at you because she just felt like looking at you at that moment. So testing it is very difficult. It is quite opaque at the moment, so there is a good chance that certainly she may not be able to see much through it. But these guys are very adaptable, and she would be absolutely fine even if she was totally blind in that eye at the moment. So we don't see much of a change in her behaviour-wise. Whatever she can see or not see through that eye, she's managing just fine. Zaya seems to be behaving practically completely normally. She was a tiny bit subdued maybe at the beginning, but she goes up on her platforms just as she always would. She interacts with her mum and her brother just exactly as she always would. And she navigates her enclosure completely normally. So yeah, she's behaving very, very similarly to exactly how she always would. Her interactions with both her mum and her brother are completely normal. When she was going under anaesthetic, we did have to separate her off just while the anaesthetic sunk in and then also while she recovered, but we wanted to get them back together as soon as we possibly could, and since then they've been completely normal. Atan, her brother, is not very forgiving, so even while she was recovering from her anaesthetic, he still, you know, wanted to play and was pushing her around and things like that. So interactions with mum and her brother are absolutely normal. Zaya, I think it's fair to say, has just taken absolutely everything in her stride. Her personality is just as it seemed to be before. She's still, you know, very, very playful. Even before, when she might have been in a bit of discomfort before her surgery, even then she was throwing herself off platforms and wrestling with her brother and all sorts of things. And she's still really, really interactive with both of her brother and her mother, and also her keepers as well. So her personality seems to be completely unchanged. So we've been in contact with Rob every single day since the surgery, and it's been over 3 weeks now. He's been really, really happy with everything that the eye has done. So in his words, it's doing everything he wants it to do. We've taken her off all treatment now, which is a really good sign of progress and a really good sign that it's healing really, really well. It is definitely a long road, and I can't 100% predict what's going to happen in the future. But we, at the moment, are feeling very hopeful that this surgery was a huge success, and obviously we would want to see it not recurring very quickly, which would indicate that the whole infection has been dealt with. We don't know exactly what Zaya's eye is going to look like long term, but the vets are very, very hopeful that it will start to clear, that opaqueness will gradually disappear over the course of the next 2 or 3 months, and it will look like a mostly normal eye. There is a chance that at close range you may see that there is some scarring, because she did have stitches across her eyeball. So it may not look at close range completely normal, but we are hoping it will start really looking much more like a regular eye. So if there was no chance of us saving Zaya's sight in the first place, we wouldn't have put her through the very complicated surgery that we did. And not to mention, there was a complicated post-op treatment as well, with, you know, lots of eye drops and quite a lot of oral meds as well. So if she was never going to regain her sight, it almost would have been a better option to remove her eye completely. But we know that she stands a really good chance of getting really good vision back in that eye. Once the opaqueness disappears, her eyesight in that eye won't be perfect and it won't be completely normal again, but it will be pretty good. And obviously the other eye is also functioning very normally and is completely unharmed. So we expect her eyesight to be very good. We don't have any reason to think that Zaya will not be able to take part in the breeding programme from now on. This was a fungal infection. It wasn't, as far as we have any reason to believe, anything to do with their genetics. We have never had this issue in any of our snow leopards before, or any of our cats on site, so we don't have any reason to think that this would affect her ability to take part in the breeding programme. Hopefully this helps to clear up any questions you guys may have had about Zaya and her surgery. We'll be keeping you guys posted on her recovery on all our social media platforms.